diving deep into Anthropic's Claude Opus 5. And look, this isn't just your standard run-of-the-mill software update. It is a fundamental disruptor. We're going to unpack exactly how this model changes our approach to knowledge work, how it completely upends the traditional rules of prompting, and honestly, what it means for the future of software engineering itself.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Meet Claude Opus 5. 2. Navigating the lineup. 3. 5 rules for prompting. 4. The indie hacker dilemma. And 5. The future of execution.
Let's jump right into section 1. Meet Claude Opus 5, the Bigfoot of AI models. So before we even get into what this thing can actually do, we've got to talk about how incredibly fast it got here. I mean, Anthropic is operating at breakneck speed right now. They're releasing new frontier models faster than most devs push out minor bug fixes. Just look at this timeline. May, we get Opus 4.8. June, Fable drops, and then Sonnet 5. And by July, boom, Opus 5 is here. That is 4 insanely powerful models slopped out in just 8 weeks. For most of July, Opus 5 was kind of like the Bigfoot of the AI world, you know? Just leaked screenshots and mystery models hiding on Google Vertex. But now, it's fully here, bringing nearly Fable-level intelligence for just a fraction of the price. And the defining spec of this model is the staggering number right here, 1 million. Opus 5 boasts a massive 1 million token context window. Practically speaking, this means you can feed it absolute mountains of data. We're talking entire code bases, full books, massive data sets, all inside a single conversation. Its ability to hold context is completely unprecedented. And that massive input, it is perfectly matched by its output capability, 128,000 maximum output tokens. This is such a beautiful contrast to that huge context window. Not only can Opus 5 digest a mountain of information, but it can turn around and produce an incredibly long, detailed, and complex output, all from a single prompt. The sheer volume of work this model can execute at once is a real game changer. But here's the thing. Opus 5 has this very specific, honestly, kind of neurotic personality. It is highly capable, like it crushes coding benchmarks in its sleep, but it's also really anxious. It loves to narrate its progress and aggressively verify its own work as it goes. And you have to watch out for this vital quirk. On the artificial analysis knowledge test, its hallucination rate actually spiked by 14 percentage points, hitting 50%. Now that doesn't mean half of what it says is garbage. It just means that when Opus 5 doesn't know an answer, it has a really high tendency to invent this beautifully well-reasoned, highly convincing explanation for a completely fabricated fact. You really have to know how to handle it. Which brings us to section 2, navigating the lineup, choosing your model and effort level. So with 4 models dropping in such a short window, figuring out what to use is, well, it's a bit confusing, right? But this brilliantly illustrates exactly how you should navigate Anthropic's lineup based on your use case. First up, Haiku. Honestly, just avoid it for complex work. Keep it to basic chat. Now, if you're on the standard $20 plan, Sonnet is your daily driver for knowledge work, and you can sub in Opus 5 when you need some heavy lifting. But if you're on the max $100 plan, Opus 5 is so good it should absolutely be your new everyday default. Fable 5, since it's the most expensive, is really only a fallback now if you aren't thrilled with Opus 5's output and just want a comparison. Basically, keep it simple. Stick with Opus 5. Now, once you're locked in on Opus 5, you've got to pick an effort level, from low all the way to max. And I know human nature, you just want to crank that dial straight to max and assume it'll give you the best stuff, right? Don't do it. Max effort is almost always total overkill. It just controls how much quote-unquote thinking Claude does, which means you're just burning through tokens, electricity, and your own time. Anthropic even points out that low and medium effort levels are surprisingly strong. Medium should for sure be your go-to default for daily knowledge work. Moving right along to section 3, 5 rules for prompting, the blueprint for Opus 5. Anthropic actually put out this super dense prompting guide for the model. So let's go ahead and distill it down into a practical blueprint. To see how these work, let's play with a little mini narrative. Imagine we are building a one-page e-commerce site for a brand called Northline Coffee. Here's the high-level view of the 5 new rules that are going to completely change your workflow. 1. Give the full job up front. 2. Set clear limits. 3. Demand short answers. 4. Limit the product size. And 5. Never ask it to check its work. Let's break down exactly why these work. Now, what's really interesting about this is how rule number 1 completely flips the old AI playbook on its head. The old way of prompting taught us to hold the AI's hand, right? You'd say, okay, first look at these files, Wait, now build a brand guide. Wait, now plan the website. The Opus 5 way is the exact opposite. Because it is so capable, you just hand over the entire job and all the assets right at the start. So for Northline Coffee, we tell it right off the bat. Build a complete one-page website to sell coffee, use these exact logos and colors, and drop the finished site into this folder. You give it the whole map, and you just let it run.
So rules 2, 3, and 4, they're all about reining in that anxious, overachieving personality we talked about earlier. Opus 5 loves doing way too much work, and if you let it, it will literally bury you in a massive wall of text. You absolutely have to force constraints. For our Northline Coffee site, we explicitly command it to answer in no more than 3 short bullet points. And we don't stop there. We restrict the actual product too. We say the website must be exactly 6 sections, headlines max out at 8 words, and sections get 70 words tops. You have to draw a tight box so Opus 5 knows exactly where to stop.
And then rule number 5 is actually about what you should never say. In the past, tacking on check your work twice and fix your mistakes to the end of a prompt was totally standard. With Opus 5, doing that actually hurts your process. See, Opus 5 is already natively verifying its work and fixing its own mistakes as it goes. So telling it to double check is just wasting massive amounts of tokens without getting you a better result. Just tell it what good looks like up front and trust its internal verification. Section 4. The indie hacker dilemma, the threat to software engineering. So when you apply those 5 rules perfectly, Opus 5 can literally spit out a fully functioning website in under 3 minutes, which begs the question, what on earth happens to developers? Well, the stark reality is that the coding moat is dead. For the last 10 years, the indie hacker dream was super consistent. You learn to code, you find a little niche, you build a micro SaaS app in something like Next.js, and you charge people for it. But the only reason that playbook worked was because the barrier to entry was so high. Coding was hard, it took time, and it was expensive. That kept the competition locked down to the people who could actually build.
And it all boils down to this number right here, $20. $20 is your monthly sub to Anthropic. It is the brand new cost of execution. The whole traditional indie hacker model relies on charging users, say $29 a month for a SaaS product. But let's be real. Why on earth would any consumer pay $29 a month to rent a generic software tool when they can just spend $20 once, prompt Opus 5, and get a perfectly personalized version in 20 minutes? This whole situation creates this wild double-edged sword for developers. On one side, you've got this incredibly high ceiling. AI makes existing programmers vastly more productive. I mean, a single developer can basically act like a 10-person agency now. But on the flip side, you have a wildly crowded floor. People with zero coding background, the quote-unquote normies, can now just vibe code. They just explain what they want in plain English, and Opus 5 builds it. And worse, if you're out there building your startup in public on Twitter, there is an unlimited army of Claude subscribers ready to just instantly clone your roadmap and steal your ideas.
Which leads us to our final part, Section 5, the future of execution, where the real value lies now. So if just typing code into an editor isn't a defensible moat anymore, how do knowledge workers actually survive this? Well, when the AI asteroid hits an industry, it totally wipes out the old way of doing things, sure, but it also fertilizes the soil for something entirely new. The developers and creators who are going to win big here are the ones who pivot away from just coding and double down on business fundamentals. The real value is now in mastering distribution, building a rock-solid, recognizable brand, and acquiring unique, proprietary data that an AI simply cannot scrape from the web. Those are your new moats.
I mean, things are moving so insanely fast right now that you've got people like Elon Musk confidently predicting we're hitting the singularity. He recently said that by 2036, money won't even matter anymore because AI and robotics will be doing literally all the physical and mental work in this wild age of abundance. And look, while it's fascinating to watch the staggering trajectory of models like Opus 5 and see glimpses of that future, let's inject a little grounding realism here. Money and business strategy are absolutely still going to matter for the next decade. But the truth is, we are just absolutely no longer limited by the hard, expensive labor of execution anymore. That barrier between your imagination and a finished product, it is now just a $20 subscription and a well-crafted prompt. So I'm going to leave you with this final, thrilling challenge. If you no longer have to worry about the how and execution costs just $20 a month, what will you build today?